Have you ever heard of a city that literally lost the sea? I'm not talking about some myth or legend. I mean a real, honest-to-goodness city, one of the most powerful on Earth that just found itself landlocked one day. Well, that is the incredible and true story of Ephesus. Okay, so let's set the scene. For centuries, Ephesus was an absolute superstar of the ancient world. It was the Roman capital of Asia Minor, a bustling center for trade, culture, religion, you name it. We're talking a population of over 200,000 people. And its magnificent harbor on the Aegean coast, that was its beating heart, its lifeline to the entire Mediterranean. And this is where things get really weird. Because if you go visit the spectacular ruins of Ephesus today, you're not going to see the sea. You're going to see fields for miles. So how in the world does a world-class port end up almost 8 kilometers away from the water? Well, this is an environmental detective story, and it's been thousands of years in the making. Our investigation doesn't start with an invading army or some catastrophic earthquake. Nope. It starts with a quiet but absolutely relentless force of nature. It's all about the slow, unstoppable march of a river. Meet our main character, the Cayster River. Now, the crazy thing about this river is that it was a total paradox. It's what created the fertile plains that fed the entire city, and it carved out the perfect natural bay for its harbor. So get this, the very thing that gave Ephesus life was also the thing that would slowly kill it. The river's secret weapon was a process called siltation. You see, as the Cayster flowed down from the mountains, it picked up a ton of sediment, silt, clay, sand, the works. But when the river hit the calm, still waters of the bay at Ephesus, it slowed right down and basically just dumped everything it was carrying, year after year, century after century. And we're not talking about a little bit of mud here. The scale was just mind-blowing. Geologists figure the river was dropping between 1.5 to 3 meters of new soil every single century. Imagine the ground level rising by the height of a person every 100 years. There's just no way you can fight that. And this timeline, man, it just lays out how slowly this disaster unfolded. Back in the 6th century BCE, the famous Temple of Artemis was right on the water. Fast forward just a few centuries, and the sea has already pulled back 4 kilometers. By the time the Romans are in charge, they need a canal just to get ships out to open water. Eventually, the whole harbor turns into a swamp, and by the 15th century, it's just gone. But here's the thing. The people of Ephesus didn't just sit there and watch their entire world slip away. No way. For centuries, they fought back, hard. They waged one of the ancient world's most incredible and desperate wars against Mother Nature. I mean, look at what they tried to do. They were constantly dredging the harbor, just digging out the mud day in and day out. Around 290 BCE, King Lysimachus took the unbelievable step of moving the entire city closer to the coast. They built massive canals. Later on, the Emperor Hadrian even tried to build a dam to divert the whole river. They threw everything they had at this problem. And you don't have to take my word for how bad things were getting. Listen to the Roman historian Livy. He wrote that by about 190 BCE, the entrance to the harbor was already so clogged up and shallow that it was barely navigable. This was a crisis, and it set the stage for a dramatic and ultimately tragic decision. So, facing a losing battle, the city's rulers decided to bet it all on one last, giant, ambitious engineering project. This was the plan that was supposed to save Ephesus. Instead, it would go spectacularly, tragically wrong. So the king, Attalus II, comes up with this plan that, on paper, sounds like a stroke of genius. He decided to build a massive stone breakwater, you can call it a mole, to make the entrance to the harbor much, much narrower. The logic seemed pretty solid. All right, this slide is the whole story right here. The idea was, if you squeeze the water through a smaller opening, it'll speed up, right? And that faster current would act like a natural power washer, blasting all that built-up silt out into the sea. But what actually happened was the complete opposite. The breakwater ended up blocking the natural currents, creating the perfect trap. All the silt got stuck inside, and the harbor started filling up faster than ever before. And about a century later, the geographer Strabo basically wrote the harbor's obituary. He confirmed their big, brilliant idea was a total failure. A well-intentioned feat of engineering had become the final nail in the coffin. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just the river and one bad engineering decision. The people of Ephesus were, well, kind of their own worst enemy without even realizing it. Widespread deforestation upriver for fuel and buildings caused massive soil erosion. All that farming and grazing stripped the land, sending even more dirt into the river. And, to top it all off, they dumped the city's own sewage and construction garbage right into the harbor. So, once that final battle against the silt was lost, it was really the beginning of the end for Ephesus as a great city. The consequences of losing the sea were swift and they were devastating. That harbor, once teeming with ships from all over the known world, just choked on mud. It went from being this vibrant heart of the economy to a disgusting, stagnant, disease-ridden swamp.
And once the port was gone, everything else just fell apart. It was a total domino effect. The economy, which was built on sea trade, completely collapsed. Those new swamps were perfect breeding grounds for mosquitoes, so malaria ran rampant. Add in some earthquakes and enemy raids, and the population just plummeted. The grand city was slowly abandoned, with the last few people moving to a nearby hill.
So, okay, what's the big takeaway from all this? Why should we care about a city that got buried in mud 2,000 years ago? Well, the fall of Ephesus isn't just a history lesson. It's a timeless warning. At its core, the story of Ephesus is just a really powerful, humbling lesson. It shows us that even the wealthiest, most powerful civilizations can be incredibly vulnerable to slow-moving environmental changes. Ephesus wasn't brought down by some conquering army. It was brought down literally by mud. And isn't that just the ultimate irony? The very river and the very port that gave Ephesus all its power, its wealth, and its identity, that was the exact same thing that caused its slow, inevitable death. And that really leaves us with a pretty heavy question. The people of Ephesus faced a disaster that happened over centuries, so slow they couldn't really see the danger, until it was way too late. It forces you to look at our own world and ask, what are our slow-moving rivers of silt? What are the creeping crises that we might be ignoring right now until our own harbors are gone for good?